Etepu, assalamu alaikum, Haru Nefer. This is Kasanak Ma Keparu with another broadcast for you. And I'm going to talk about a very powerful topic today. Hold on one second. Let me just position my camera, make myself pretty. All right, hold on a second. Don't have makeup here. Wish I did have makeup. That'd be kind of cool. All right. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Let me just position my mic here. Okay, get everything straight. Okay. Yeah, I think I got this rocking and rolling right now. So anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I want to talk to you about a really exciting and powerful subject today, which is inner peace and inner power. This is something that we in Western civilization rarely touch upon, okay? We tend to focus on the external, the extravagant stuff, those individuals who have a lot of bravado, who are very boisterous, or who flaunt their wealth and the accumulation of material objects. But we don't look at what is within the individual. We don't see the quiet master or the sage, the ones that we really can learn from and acquire true knowledge. If you understand the story of Asar and the Set, Tehuti or Jehuti or Thoth was the sage, and he was quiet and symbolized by the ibis bird who would stand in the water on one leg and without any ripples in the water, just stand still. And that is the ancient Kemetic people or Egyptian people grand metaphor for stilling the thought process to allow wisdom to come in. Now, thought, when the ancient, when the Egyptologists and archaeologists went into ancient Egypt artifacts, or when they went to grave rob or steal our knowledge, when they went to Egypt and they were looking for the Book of Thoth, and this is in the occult, many Black magicians were searching for the Book of Thoth, and Aleister Crowley had a vision about it. And what they learned is that the Book of Thoth was never written down, but it was in the Akashic records, and that you had to pull that information out. You had to intuit, bring it to you, okay? And that is the source of true wisdom. Now, here's what I am going to give for you today. You're going to get. I am going to give you a very powerful technique that would allow you to work magic, and it's guaranteed to work. And it's something that no one else is teaching. So have a little patience, stick with me. I'm pretty good looking, so I'm not hard on the eyes. You should be able to stay for a little bit and get this. And I'm guaranteeing you, if you apply this, it will change your life. Okay, it will change your life, and it doesn't require crazy rituals and all that. I mean, if you study the life of Aleister Crowley, you'll see that he went through ceremonial magic from the Golden Dawn, and that was very elaborate. And he was conjuring up spirits, and he was trying to, contact Tehuti. I believe his wife made the first contact. So anyway, Haru Nefer D, how are you? So two things we're going to do today for you guys tuning in. Hopefully, I think I'll do it today. I'll see. If we have some time, if you guys have any questions, put it in the chat box, and I'll do a quick reading for you to help you out. If you have any questions that's going on in your life, I can do a quick reading. And I want to talk about and announce the next contest I am going to have. So those of you who are interested, enter into the contest. It'll be fun. But I want you to do something for me, which is real important, is to hit the like button and, share this video, of course, with family and friends, and subscribe to my channel for more great videos. Now, the one thing I'm noticing online is that a lot of people are following individuals claiming to be in the Kemetic religion. And these individuals have lots and lots of followers, but they don't practice what they preach. And then many times you'll see them cursing, fighting one another. I mean, really getting into these internet beefs and doing the most unspiritual things. And yet you'll see that they have hundreds and thousands of followers, right? And you have to, obviously these individuals, they're not living a ma'at life. They talk about ma'at a lot, but they're not living a ma'at life, nor are their followers, because if their followers were really seeking truth and living a ma'at life, there is no way their followers could be following them or watching their videos. Because it's very evident that when you start to really put these principles into practice, it changes your life. Like, for example, if I contact an ancestor, that ancestor is going to check me on certain things, all right? And if I try to step out of bounds in certain ways, the ancestor will, like, you know, knock me in the head. Same thing with deities. There are certain deities that I have a close relationship with. And those deities will either guide me spiritually, depending upon what they govern. You know, Hedaru governs the entertainment industry. And, you know, she can open up favors in that arena. And Tahuti will give me wisdom. But, you know, if I start going out of bounds, then they will check me. And, of course, you always have free will. They will never stop you. But you'll know that you're doing something wrong because you're actively forming a relationship and invoking those energies. And for those who claim that they're into the Kemetic way of life, but yet cursing and doing all kinds of, non-spiritual things, there is no relationship they can have with a deity or an ancestor because it wouldn't work. It's just like, no, it just can't work, all right? So keep that in mind. And there's always going to be, you know, I was talking with a gentleman earlier today who has a successful online internet business. And he says that he has, you know, hundreds and thousands of followers and he says he has a lot of people who purchases his course, right? And he was saying, Kassan, do you know how many people who purchase my course actually open the course? And I was like, I don't know. And he was saying it's around 2 to 3%. And I was like, wow, you know, it's very interesting. So even in magic, for those who say, well, I want, you know, a better relationship, I want a mate, I want money, I want that car, I want a happy life, there's a very small percentage of people who will actually apply the magical techniques to get the to get this. So don't be part of the majority that doesn't partake in the blessings of the teachings here. Be hungry for knowledge. Don't be happy with your station in life. Say, I want more. And the best way you can do that is to master magic. Because if you become even a 50% magi or magician, even if you don't make it 100%, only come 50%, you will see how your life will radically improve. Things will just fall into place. You will have what we call in Western society is good luck. You know, things will just really work out for you. And aside from that, you'll get so much wisdom and knowledge. Okay. So let us begin. First off, I want to talk about two things that I think that you guys should really get into, which is because I talked about before about SAS, seasonal affective disorder. And magnesium is a great way to fight anxiety and depression. So this is something good. In fact, when I was, many of you know, I went to the hospital last week. So they did the blood test and they said, oh, you're a little low on magnesium. So they gave me some pills there. And I kind of thought that was something had to do with the low magnesium, but they kind of confirmed it for me. The other thing is what you want to do to help you with your mood and stress is 5-HTP. Okay, and this is really good, but the precursor to this is vitamin B. So take the vitamin B, then take the 5-HTP, and you should be rocking and rolling. Because you know what? We all have stress in our lives, and this society is structured in a way to bring you stress. And what am I saying? We're socially engineered to be stressed out. That's what the ruling elite, the oligarchy, wants us to be. They want us to be stressed. Okay. Because, a population that is stressed and on the brink is one that's easily manipulated and controlled. Hence is why we always have these false flag operations of terrorist attack, people who are going in there doing mass shootings. Yet, you know, you have two individuals, if you watch the news lately, two individuals who are black can't even sit at a Starbucks and get arrested. These young African-American men were doing nothing wrong, sitting at a Starbucks, and the manager of the Starbucks called the police and had them arrested, right? Meanwhile, you have the so-called militia individuals who are militia, but really, you know, they're program, you know, program devices under programs like MK Ultra or Manchurian candidates who walk around in broad daylight with fully automatic weapons, who can get into a Las Vegas hotel, who can get into a church, and no one sees them. You understand what I'm saying? They're carrying automatic weapons with them. And from my understanding, in Las Vegas at the Mandalay, the individual there had stockpiled automatic weapons. And, you know, the other incidents is one where the individual walked into school and started to lay down fire on all these innocent children there. No one saw these individuals walking down the street with these weapons. And yet they were able to get in there, you know, and then just... meanwhile, again, in a Starbucks, two individuals, African-American men, just sit there doing nothing, and the police come right away. And it wasn't just one officer, it was a number of them armed and ready, and these individuals are taken away. So I want you to think about that. Just postulate that, all right? Because it's a very interesting thing when you start to understand how social engineering works, how the media works, and the media is just a bunch of lies. They're liars. They're doing nothing but programming the mind. They all operate from one source, the Associated Press. They're putting out the same information on all channels, all stations, the same exact information. In terms of investigative reporting, they don't really investigate anything. They don't investigate anything. And we have numerous whistleblowers who have told us, documented it, how the process works in terms of when you have these independent reporters who really do want to investigate what happens to them when they try. So anyway, I digress. Let's get into the deep details. Now, the goal of our goal should always be to acquire power, spiritual power. And I mean the power to change reality, change the fourth dimensional experience you're having, because we know it's hologram, right? I'm not talking about the bullshit, bogus stuff you go and see in these churches every Sunday when the minister who's out to get money from you or get you to tithe to them talk about supernatural power or God's blessings or God's bribery, because, you know, if you give the minister some money, then he's saying that, oh, then God will bless you and give you something in return, and that's a bribe, all right? And that's an unscrupulous kind of God, you know? So I'm talking about a power that you already have, but because of the upbringing in this Western society and the ruling elite, they have taken from you and robbed from you the knowledge of self, because your owner's manual should have come with you into this life. But what they did was set it up so you wouldn't know who you are and how to use the power that's within you. People, this is not mumbo jumbo, okay? This is not hype. This is not me just being, you know, hyperbolic. This is real. This is real. You understand what I'm saying? Anthony Robbins standing up there talking about motivation, that's fairy tale. What I'm teaching you and telling you is how to use real power that is within you. Okay? So let's get this straight. And this has been proven by our ancestors, who were the first ones to map the stars, the first ones to develop high technology. But we don't know that because they've rewritten history. The space-time continuum, the timeline has been changed to where we now believe that the past was primitive and that time goes in a linear fashion, which is a lie. Time is not linear. No, it's not. There's no such thing as past, future. There's only the present now moment. That is all that there is. There's no past, there's no future, but I don't want to go into all of that. That's a different discussion. All right, Tia Hatepu, Joy in the morning. Hatepu, how are you? Suan, Haru Nefer, Natalie, how you doing? What's up, Haru Nefer? All right, The gang is coming in, and we're getting ready to do this. So anyway, as I was saying, we need to get rid of the bogus BS. Now, one of the things I started when I was searching for real true power, I traveled across the country and spent thousands of dollars studying with gurus and experts in the field. I was out there paying money, learning. In fact, one of the first teachers that I went to, was in the Midwest, and he practiced a Japanese, what they call black arts, or occult art of Kuji-kiri or Kuji-in. And this was a series of interlocking hand positions and striking that would take you into a meditative state to invoke certain energies. Now, this is, again, the Japanese have their own ancient occult black magic. So that was one of the first things I wanted to study, and I was really into that. And so I had, had the opportunity to go to Japan, but I missed that opportunity. I wasn't able to go to Japan to learn from the Grand Master the art of the Kuji-in. But anyway, so my diving into the occult world of magic has been a long history. This is not something I just fell into. I've been studying many, many different practices, and this is what I have developed over the years that I think is a streamlined approach and works fairly quickly. There are other approaches that are more elaborate, that are just as effective, but take more time to work. So what I wanted to do was come up with something that I said the average Joe on the street could use without having to purchase a lot of herbs and candles and oils and all of this. I said, let me just see if there's something that we could work on and develop that is very simple, but yet, again, effective. And this is what I was able to do. And this is what I am imparting on to you, this technique that you're going to get today, all right? And it's going to be a very powerful technique, I kid you not. Please hit the like button, and so we can, get this video viral so that, people can get this information, because in the spirit of Ma'at, Goddess of Truth, Justice, Righteousness, Sharing, we have to make sure that as spiritual beings, other people out there partake in this knowledge. We don't hoard it for ourselves. We share it with people. And if they accept it and digest it, great. If they reject it, regurgitate it, that's fine. Either way, we're okay. So let's talk about this. Okay. Inner peace. Now, you've heard a lot about this whole thing. Now, the reason why I'm titling this Inner Peace and the inner power, or you can say its strength or whatever. The reason why I'm titling this is because the two go hand in hand. To have real spiritual power, to change reality, you have to have inner peace. Now, I talked about this before, but the ancient Greeks kind of stumbled onto the practice of kind of like inner peace, but I don't think they really got it right. I think they were trying, but kind of went off a bit. But the Greek philosophers were great. They really got into a lot of things and really tried to understand the nature of reality and the universe. And one of the things that they came up with was Stoicism. Now, what is Stoicism? Stoicism is the art of being stoic, meaning that you're not going to have an emotional reaction no matter how things go, whether good or bad. It's the art of being stoic, and I can say being centered, okay? And being centered, you'll find, is in many, many cultures: Indian culture, Chinese, Japanese, African. And, when you look back at ancient African culture, especially the Maasai warriors, and these warriors would hunt lions. These men were like brave as anything. I mean, hunting lions with spears, you got to give these guys credit. Talk about Rambo. Rambo, please, you can't compare to these guys. You know what I'm saying? King Kong ain't got nothing on these guys, all right? But, and the way they were able to do that is they practiced a technique, an ancient technique called Min Eben Ak and Ma'at. Now that means keeping the heart still to live truth. That means, your heart beats at certain rhythms and stuff. And I should say, well, certain rhythms, depending upon if you're emotionally excited, or fearful. And there's certain vibrational frequencies that when the heart is beating, that it gives out, which puts you in certain states. Now, these Maasai warriors learn to still the heart so they can track the lion and then kill it and attack it and kill it. So going back to our ancient Greek ancestors was that they created this whole idea of Stoicism because there was a lot going on back there, man. You had like the there was just a lot of killings. There was a lot of pedophilia going on. It was just nuts, man, nuts. You know, I mean, you said the wrong thing and you were fed to the lions. But anyway, it really started with this man named Zeno who was shipwrecked, and he lost all of his wealth, wandered into a library, started reading about philosophy, and then that's kind of where the birth of Stoicism came from Zeno of Cyprus. All right, and the idea with Stoicism is this: you should not look at, in other words, you should not look at life in a very positive aspect. You should look at life in a very pessimistic way, because what the idea is that our expectations set us up for the fall. And because we are always expecting either money, love, happiness, this, in which these are nothing more than thoughts, Sebek, these thoughts, this is what gives you the false idea, or gives you your different states of mind, and sets you up to be disappointed and depressed. However, to be stoic says that no matter what happens, you know, I will not emotionally react to it, because I understand that this is what life is about. Do you understand? When we see our neighbors hitting lotto or coming into money or being happy in their relationships, you know, we tend to look at ourselves and say, well, why not me? Okay. And I'm gonna let you in a big secret with this, right? When you say, why not me? Do you actually know that that is your higher mind doing that, creating those circumstances to where you see people in your life having these good fortunes or having these things and maybe you're not having it? Your higher mind creates those scenarios, all right? And when you say, well, or if something bad happens to you and you go, well, why me? Why not everybody else? No, it has to happen to you because you're living a subjective experience. So the subjective experience says that this experience is me as a character in the movie. And as the character in the movie, as the main character, I have to have ups and downs. I can't have everything good or everything bad. I have to have up and down. All right. So the idea with Stoicism is to be like kind of monotone, or to go through life with the expectation that bad things will happen and that you are not to react to those things, but expect them to happen. All right. So if you, for example, would you get would you get really emotional, upset, and angry if it rained tomorrow? No, you know, because rain is part of nature and natural, part of our ecosystem, and you know that rain happens, right? So you wouldn't get mad at that. So if your house burned down, there's no reason to get upset about that because that does happen. So why are you getting upset about it? You know what I mean? So now here's the thing. The Stoicism says that you should never hope. There should be no idea of hope, okay? Hope will just set you up for a bigger fall. In fact, what Stoicism says is that you should look at in terms of like how things could be worse. And therefore, it may bring about a greater appreciation of the present circumstances. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, the reason why I'm concerned about that, and I do like Stoicism, is that when you start to think about how it could be worse, that's actually manifesting those situations in another alternate parallel world. And if you keep vibrating at a certain frequency, you will move to that parallel world where the bad thing will happen. So I'm very concerned about that because I don't want you going out there and start saying, well, it could be worse. You know, I could have gotten hit by a meteor, and you don't want to start having those type of ideas. But the idea of what Zeno from Cyprus in terms of creating Stoicism was, I think it was on a firm foundation, but because they were the Greek philosophers were left-brain thinkers, they didn't look within, they looked without, and they were very much concerned, and they looked at the Greek culture, and they said, it's a travesty. And there's a quote, I think it was by one philosopher who was taken by the Greeks, and they were going to kill him, and his wives were weeping. And he was a practice of Stoicism. And he said something to his wife before he died. And he would say, why weep at one event when all of life is to cry for? And that's a very deep statement, you know. So anyway, so Stoicism went through many practitioners. Marcus Aurelius was one of the more noted ones, and he created his diaries or his books called Meditations. And these are really going to be getting a chance to read the Meditations. It goes into his philosophy on Stoicism and life and things of that nature. Now, the ancient Kemetic people, going back to that practice, Mineb and Ankh and Ma'at. And if you notice, if you watch traditional African people or Chinese or Koreans, you will notice that they're not very, they don't emote a lot. They don't express emotions a lot. In fact, I think it's among the Korean or the Chinese that there's a term called the poker face, because a lot of them don't display emotions in their face, in their expressions. And there was a Korean comedian who talked a lot about this, being brought up in a Korean family, how there's not a lot of affection in that family. You know what I mean? But there's still love. Now understand, that's a Ma'at principle, because Ma'at is not very affectionate, but Ma'at is a real, true love. So Ma'at could love you, but not give you all the affection. If you want the affection, you go to Heheru, Hathor. She's very, very affectionate, overly affectionate. Okay, and you know, I'm wearing her necklace today, Heteru's necklace, Hathor. So happy seeker, Haru Nefer. So now, when you practice Mineb and Ankh and Ma'at, it is a very difficult challenge, because it calls for you that when things happen that are very happy, such as like for example, if you're a woman, if you get into a relationship with a good-looking guy like me, and you get all happy, you're not supposed to do that. You just stay centered, and you understand that everything. I'll go deeper into this. You cannot invest in these things, and the same thing goes for men who, you know, they may be dating a supermodel or whatever. You may get a new car. You still have to remain centered. Now, there are multiple readings or meanings for this, and one of the things is when you pass on and die, and you go before the judgment scene of Ma'at. Now, the most important thing that we're all seeking, and not many of you will achieve this in this lifetime, is to come out of the matrix. Okay, we want to come out of the matrix, because everything you see around you is not a manifestation of what you want. In fact, you're being controlled. Your mind has been hacked by the ruling elite to manifest what you see around you. Okay, because if our ancestors had had things that they wanted us to manifest, but we haven't. And part of what we should have been manifesting is the timeline has been disrupted. So what I mean by that, we should be further along in technology and in human, I hate to say these words, but I'll say it to facilitate the conversation, human evolution. But we have been retarded in our progress of technology and human evolution by the ruling elite, who is hoarding technology and human evolution. They live in a high-tech world for the purpose of controlling us. Now, my purpose in saying that we want to come out the matrix and to be stoic or to be Mineb is to not attach yourself to material possessions in the fourth dimensional experience. And this is where you find a lot of Buddhist and philosophy, the way, talks about this. And the reason why it talks about this is because when you pass on and go before the judgment machine of Ma'at, and you recite the 40, so you don't really recite the 42 negative confessions. I can't get into that, but a lot of people talk about that, but you don't recite that. But when you go before Ma'at and they weigh the heart against the feather, the weighing of the heart, that is a grand metaphor for saying, are you attached to anything in life? Have you formed an attachment to material things? Have you formed an attachment to your mate, your doggy, your money, your house? And if you have formed no attachment to those things, fifth dimensional ascension, you ascend to another plane of existence. You do not, your soul is not recycled, you're not reincarnated again. You become an honored ancestor, a Shepsu. Does that make sense? So when you have these nutcases who go out there and think they're spiritual, and they talk about giving all of your possessions away, No, that is stupid. That is the left brain external thinking of how to do things. You don't want to give your possessions away. You want to keep them, but at the same time be stoic and have no attachment to them. So when they go away, you're like, okay, they're gone. So, que sera. And you are centered because you have no attachment to anything. You're stoic. Oh man, my beautiful wife. I love her. She was smart. She took care of the kids, and she passed away from cancer. Yes, I will miss her, but I understand that these things happen. Nothing in life is permanent. And then I go on, and then I move on. In fact, I'm counseling a guy now. I'm counseling him every day. His mother is very, very sick. She has cancer. So I'm really helping him through this to understand that he can vibrate to a different parallel world where the cancer disappears. It goes into remission. Another discussion, though. But what I'm saying to you is when you have achieved the level of where the possessions can be before you, yet you have no attachment to them, and they can come and go in your life, and you show no extravagant emotional output, then you have achieved a certain level of inner peace. Now, what's the flip side to that? You now have spiritual power. You're now at the Sekert level. Sekert is the goddess of spiritual power. She controls the mantras that can change reality, the Hakao. Okay? And she's the goddess that is on high up on the tree of life, or the Pot Neteru. Okay? Research that. So when you have gone through, now, do you have to get to a point of inner peace to access power to change reality? No, you don't. You don't have to get there. But that's the goal. But not everybody will get there. We're all riding a bus, and some people's destiny is to get off at certain stops. Other people's destiny is to get off at the last stop and achieve the goal. All right? So when you're practicing Mineb and Ankh-Ma'at, or you're practicing Stoicism, what is happening? Well, you're storing up Kundalini energy. You're storing up Chi. You're storing up Ra force. And that's beautiful. Because when you're storing up that energy, by not allowing yourself to emotionally emote over anything, then that energy is stored and ready to be used. It's stored and ready to be used. Let us say I go for 2 weeks of practicing Stoicism, or Mineb and Ankh-Ma'at. Now, at the end of that 2 weeks, I have stored up a lot of Chi force. So what do I do with it? Well, I can practice Qigong and channel that energy into an objective. And I've done that. Or I can sit down and meditate on something and will it into being. That's powerful. I can sit there and meditate on something that I desire. And because I've stored that Chi energy, it has to be directed into the objective. And when I inject it into my goal, my objective, it then comes to manifestation. The reason why a lot of people who want things don't get them is because there's not enough energy behind it. They've gone along and lived a very, very corrupt life, and then want to say, I want to access spiritual power. And then I want to do this. I want to do this. I'm obeying the law of attraction. Well, the law of attraction works, but do you have enough energy to funnel into that to bring you what you want? No, you don't. You don't have this spiritual power to do it. Now, the more you practice Stoicism or Mineb, the more powerful you become, because here's the secret to magic. And every magician, every practitioner of the secret or the law of attraction will validate what I'm saying. If you focus on a goal and you want it and you desire it, it cannot manifest until you do what? Until you cast it out, until you forget about it, until you walk away from it. And people have always said this. They said, you know, I wanted this thing and wanted this thing. And then when I let go and just put it up my mind, did it manifest it? I say, yes, exactly, exactly. That is the key. That is what you need to do. Because when you're practicing Yin or Stoicism, not only are you storing the chi, the raw force, the energy, but you're also releasing it. You're also telling the universe, I want this, but I can get along without it. And therefore the universe has no choice but to manifest it. That is the secret to spiritual power. Yes, you can set up a shrine and do a ritual, draw a circle, pentagram, you know, have your magic wand. Those things work really well. Or you can do this. And you know what? Most people won't do this because it's too difficult to go, you know, a day, 48 hours, 72 hours of just emotionless, no expression. That's difficult, you know? And then you go to the next levels because, you know, you can practice sex magic to where you refrain from orgasms, or if you do orgasm, you channel that energy to a spiritual objective. That's a different field of study in and of itself, but that's very effective too. And if you're in a relationship, you should be practicing sex magic. We're all adults here, so this is something you should understand, because too many of us in relationships use sex just for lustful purposes, but sex raises the energy, the raw force in you. And that raw force could be directed to a very spiritual goal, but we don't use it at all. So it dissipates. You know, they have a thing now called trans-surfing. And trans-surfing is a way to change reality. It's a very popular thing. There's a book out there now that's just come out by a Russian author. And one of the things they call the energy that takes on a life of itself is a pendulum. Now, in occult practices, we call it an ergomore, meaning that when you are creating, when you have an objective and you're funneling a lot of energy into it, it becomes an intelligence. It becomes an energy that's intelligent, and it goes out there to acquire the thing that you want. It works on your behalf. You've actually created a spirit. You don't realize that, but that's exactly what you have done, you know? So that is the key. That's what you want to do. And if you are feeling daring, practice Stoicism for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or go a year. I had a physical therapist who took a challenge on himself that was kind of similar to that, which was no talking for a year. You know, he went to this temple. He quit physical therapy, went to a temple, and then practiced no talking. I was like, wow, that's going to be interesting. You know what I mean? But the enlightenment and the power you get from Meneb. I mean, do your research. Research the traditional cultures, and you'll find that none of them did what Western society does, which was to overexpress ourselves. For some reason, in this society, we think that the expression of emotions to the extreme, to become, you know, the men become boisterous and trying to show off with all this testosterone and their manhood, and the women, you know, try to just look the most beautiful, and they talk too much, and, you know, gossip and all that. We're taught that these things are good. They're not. They're not, because it expends the energy that you could be storing to achieve a spiritual goal. And it's so simple to do this. You can teach your friends, you can teach your children to do this. And the plus side of this is that you'll find that when very difficult and challenging situations come up, such as an argument with your boss, an argument with your mate, an argument with some stranger on the street, you're driving and you have road rage, you'll find that you'll be at peace, that you won't react to this individual. You won't react to that individual. You'll always be centered. And you'll be like, wow, this is new. And then here is another special gift you will receive if you do it correctly. If you do it properly, you will find that consciousness will pull back, and it'll be the weirdest feeling, and it'll be the most pleasurable feeling. Consciousness will pull back, and you will be the observer. You will be able to observe your body, the physical body. you will be able to observe the world and see it in an entirely different way. You become the all-seeing eye, the observer. And that is where you experience your consciousness of your true being and truly who you are. And if you go even deeper, even further, and it takes a little more work, you then will get back to what I call as a singularity, or what the New Age people call oneness, connection with all. And they've reported that that's a beautiful feeling and a beautiful state. Okay, and try it. You're going to love it. It's going to change your life. You have a goal you're working on. Is there something you need? Is there extra money you need? Are you looking for a mate? Are you looking for happiness? Then try practicing Minette. Now, again, with Stoicism, the philosophy there is to don't have hope, see the worst case scenario, and don't react either way. I don't want you visualizing the worst case scenario. I just want you to be centered. I want you to observe things and don't emotionally react to things. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be great. It's like a fighter not having sex before a fight to store his energy up. And then when he gets into the ring, he kicks ass. You know what I mean? Because he has that stored up energy. But if he were to have sex, he expends his energy, his seeds, and he's weaker. He's tired. So this is why, and his IQ drops too. So this is why you'll see athletes and fighters, refrain from certain things before participating in that activity. And the same thing as you need to store your energy. Some people go on the fast. I've done fasting for 2 weeks, a week, and whatever. I didn't find that particularly helpful. And I found that probably more stressful because when you start really fasting, everything you see is food. You can't stop thinking about food, and then that kind of brings you to another level of stress, and it really is not beneficial. It's good if you want to cleanse your system out. But for spiritual elevation, it could be very challenging because, you want to clear your mind and you can't because the animal spirit within you wants to eat. It's difficult, And then certain brain centers kicks in, which is the left brain, because the left brain is responsible for individuality. So the left brain starts to short circuit your morality, your moral aspect, and you start thinking only about you and only about primitive survival. Okay, so it's a very tricky situation there. All right. So hey, listen, I hope you've enjoyed this. All right. And as I promised, if any one of you have a question, a quick question, I will happily do a reading for you. If you want to type it into the chat box real quick, I'll do a reading and give you an answer. If no one has a question, I will move on. All right. Next contest, real quick. I want to give away this book. Well, not this particular book. This is mine because I have all the highlights and I've dogged here the certain chapters. But Dr. Kirby's Surprise, Synchronicity. This really gets down to the mechanics and the steps to manipulating reality, right? And it could be yours. It could be. If you email me at kisank@gmail.com with the subject line contest, synchronicity, and your address. Okay, can I say that again? Email me, kisank@gmail.com. That is QESANKH@gmail.com. Subject line contest, synchronicity, with your address and the answer to this question. Please explain the difference between the subjective and the objective realm. If you get the question right, I will send you this, a new book by Dr. Kirby's Surprise, which will teach you how to change and manipulate reality. So, no one has a question? Oh my God, that is like, okay, cool, no question. Oh my God, okay, here they come. Oh my God, that's a long question. Oh, that's not a question for the oracle. Oh, it's good, but you guys are not asking a question for the oracle, but I can answer some of those questions too. Hey, listen, Stephanie Hetepu. So the way you want to effectively do that, that's a trance thing. All right. So you need to learn how to put yourself into an alternate state of consciousness, an hypnotic state, okay, where you could rid yourself of that fear. So her question was, how do you have any, how do you get rid of, I think you're saying fear of public speaking and anxiety issues. So, okay, as I spoke about a little bit earlier, the society, in terms of social engineering, programs you to have anxiety, to be fearful. So that's an outside programming. That's not who you truly are. But they want you to be fearful and have anxiety. But and to get over public speaking, which probably is one of the #1 fears that we have, you need to just get into more meditation, visualization. Also, you can see a trained hypnotherapist who can actually help you with that, So check out my website. I do hypnosis sessions, and we can address those issues, okay? And that's easy. That's really kind of easy to deal with. It's funny because I did have that problem starting out, and when I went into the trance state, the hypnosis state, what I found out was I wasn't really shy of speaking in public. I was more fearful of overdoing it because I knew I was a good speaker. So, I had been picked up some childhood false belief that being good at something was a bad thing. And I had to really reconcile that belief, which is a Sebek thing. Oh, Hetepu Aset. Okay. I can't even pronounce this. I keep messing this up. Ho again, I'm sorry. Why is it easier to travel back in time than forward? There's no back and there's no forward. So I talked about that earlier. There's only the present now moment. You think that there's a past, you think there's a future, but that comes from perspective. But there is none of that. Okay, and if you are a left brain thinker, then all you think about is traveling in a time machine like the DeLorean. If you're a right brain integrated brain thinker, then you know that you can travel in time through consciousness, because consciousness collapses space and time. Okay, consciousness. All right, so the subatomic particle, right? They discovered that with a subatomic particle, they split it in two, and they took one of the particles that it started out one particle, and they split it, and they took half of that particle and tossed it to the far edge of the universe. If they did anything to this particle, that other particle on the other side of the universe would react in the same way, and that shows that there is no distance and there is no time. Okay, because a principle of consciousness is non-singularity. I'm not sorry. There's no. It's not non-singularity. I'm sorry. There's no point in space and time. There's no localization. You cannot find consciousness in one point in space and time. It's everywhere, hence nowhere. Okay, so therefore you know that we all are connected in some way, shape, or form. What I was meaning to say is it has a consciousness has a principle of non-locality. Sorry about that. So you cannot find it in any one fixed point in space and time. All right, and we know space and time are subject to linear brain thinking. Okay. What else, Sue-Ann? Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so you're saying, what does it mean to dream aqua blue sea water flowing into your home and to dream a lion? So you know that blue is ma'at. You know water is all set. Okay, and a lion, we can attribute that to like Haru. So put it together. Think about that, So hold on one second. Oh my God, I can't believe I lost that. I cannot believe that. Hold on one second. Let me see if this works. So Sue-Ann, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna do a quick reading on your dream and see what that meant, okay? And I'm gonna do I'll do the reading with the Chinese oracle system, the ancient Chinese oracle system called the I-Ching. Oh, I get you now. Okay, so he's saying, Hogan's saying, when we were talking about space and time, he's saying that it seems easier for me to shift my consciousness to younger me than older me. You can shift. Those are just parallel, alternate parallel universes where you exist at certain ages. So you are duplicated infinitely in different parallel worlds or dimensions, whatever you want. Not dimensions, but you can call it that. So yes, you can shift yourself back to when you were younger, you can shift yourself. Let me explain this. You can get advice from your future self if you want. You can do that. But again, remember, there's no future. Okay. And I've done things to where I've made agreements with my future self to send me or place certain objects in a certain place to communicate with me so I know what to look out for in the future. So that is a practice that you can do. And you're absolutely right that you can't, sometimes you're more close to certain aspects of yourself at certain points in space and time. So what I'm saying is that there are certain versions of you that you can be closer to, resonate with, and get information from. And there are certain versions of you that you just can't. Like, for example, there's a version of me who's very, very wealthy. And I have gone into a deep meditation state to try and communicate with this individual so that he can give me his financial secrets. And he certainly would not. And that was like a shock to me. I'm like, all right, tell me how you make money. Can we communicate? Can you help me be better with business? And he was just like, no, for no apparent reason. So I guess there was no relationship formed there, or I guess for certain reasons, he just was like, no. And I understood that. And I said, okay, that's fine. No problem there. All right, 1 second, guys. I want to do this reading really quick, and then we'll move on. So you had the aqua blue, and you had the lion, and we'll see what the Chinese oracle says. In fact, hold on a second. Let's undo that. All right, so here we go. So it says this: you've got the 9th hexagram changing into the 10th hexagram. Okay, 9th hexagram says the taming power of the small. So that means that water changes things over time. If you put a rock in a stream, after 100 years, that water will change the shape of the rock. So when we're talking about the taming power of the small, we're talking about the little things and how they can make a change, a big difference over time, okay? Now, you also got 2-line stress in the hexagram. You got 3rd line stress, and you got the 4th line stress. The 3rd line says the spokes burst out of the wagon wheels, man and wife roll their eyes. You got this 4th line stress, I'm sorry. If you are sincere, blood vanishes and fear gives way. I will read a very simple interpretation of that. So it says, the opposition appears minor and advance seems possible, yet the situation is not in your control. If you insist upon forging ahead confidently, you will be defeated by no end of annoyances. This has most undignified appearance. 4th line. If you are honest and sincere and influence others with the correct advice, you could avoid existing and terrible dangers. Fear and anxiety will give way only to truth, then no error will be made. And then you have it changing to the 10th hexagram, which is conduct, which talks about, which is an analogy of a little mouse. That's funny. I just realized something, because the 10th hexagram talks about a lion. Okay, that's funny. Yeah, the 10th hexagram talks about like a mouse running up a lion's back. Now, the lion is not upset or perturbed by this little mouse because he's saying, oh, it's just a little mouse. But if that little mouse pushes it, that lion will eat it. You know what I mean? So it's saying, step carefully, Suan, all right? Be very careful. Be like water, my friend. Be like water. Okay. Next question. Oh, so why is that messed up? Why are you saying that's messed up? That's good reading. Okay. Why is it difficult to remember dreams? Why do we forget? Because you live in a Western society that tells you dreams aren't useful. You live in a society that doesn't tell you how to manipulate and control your dreams, how to do lucid dreaming, how to control your dreams. That's why you don't remember them, and that's why you don't use the dream state properly. Dreaming is a very powerful tool if you learn to use it correctly. Okay. What's the next question? Dreams. When you dream, you astral travel. You know that, right? That's a form of astral travel. So dreams have been used by our ancient ancestors to predict the future. It has been used to alter reality. Okay, because in dream state, you can astral travel to the template reality. The template reality is the skeleton of how reality is based on, how it's built. And if you learn to do that, you'll be able to change the fourth dimensional experiencing. Okay. The other thing is with my mate, what I did with her and what we do is that we will astral travel and visit each other in the dream state. And we make agreements like okay, this may sound silly, but this is how we do it. All right. One agreement we made was we will meet on the moon and then we'll go from there. So we astral travel to the moon and we meet there. And it was very romantic, you know. So these are things that you can do too. I mean, there are plenty of books out there on this you can read, or just send me an email and I will tutor you through it, okay? Or contribute to the Patreon and I'll give you lessons on it, all right? The Patreon campaign, we could use your support, and you can contribute for just as little as $1, okay? And I'll give you some good stuff. How do you astral travel? Set. Isis, my love, you do it every night. How do you do it? Your higher consciousness does it every night. You don't need to ask how. It does it. You do it. You can't help but do it. All right. So you don't need an instruction manual on that. Yes, dreams are astral traveling. Yes, they are. Okay. So yeah, you're traveling. You don't have to do it. It's like breathing. You're doing it. Now, traveling to a specific destination, that's a different story. If you want to travel to a specific destination, then that takes some work. But keep in mind, we are not don't be a left brain thinker. Don't be polarized left brain thinking, because you know that there's no real travel, right? Because remember I said there's no point A to Z, you know, because as you exist here, you also exist at the edge of the universe. You're made up of subatomic particles, okay? So consciousness has the principle of non-locality. You're not fixed in any one point in space and time. You are everywhere, okay? And this is why, I'm gonna leave you guys with this. I don't wanna stay too long because I had dinner waiting for me. But listen, what was I gonna say? Oh, when people have reported UFO sightings, the one thing they have reported was that these UFOs could bend space and time or collapse space and time. They would appear and disappear. And this is how they're able to travel through great distances. And the one interesting thing about this that coincides with that and which validates this premise is the fact that when many UFO contactees, or should I say contactees? Yeah, I can say that. When they observed these UFOs, they felt that they were observing consciousness. They said it wasn't a machine. It was a living organism. It was consciousness, which makes precise sense. Because Stephen Greer, he's one of the foremost authorities on these UFOs, said it best. He said that Lockheed Martin, who produces these fake UFO craft to fool people, when you look at them, you see mechanical devices. But the real UFOs, when you look at them, you feel you're looking at a being, an entity, consciousness. This is why these beings are able to travel vast distances of space to get here. And we're talking about not mechanical ships. We're talking about ships that are conscious, okay? And I'll do a whole video on that, and we can get more into that later. But anyway, I had done the reading, and again, if you guys want to participate in the giveaway, just send me an email with the answer to what is the subjective and the objective ground, the difference between the two. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. You guys have been wonderful. Love you guys all. This is Kasak Ma Keparu. And until my next broadcast, Amen Ra.